You think clarity demands long answers, but long answers leak control. Someone keeps asking why you decided, and your state starts serving theirs. Listen carefully. The moment you stop explaining yourself, psychology rewrites the room. Explanations feel safe because they promise understanding and harmony. But explanations also create hidden contracts that you never agreed to. Every extra sentence invites new hooks, new tests, and new frames. The mind that needs to be understood becomes predictable to trained eyes. Predictability invites steering, and steering becomes invisible control. You thought you were building trust, yet you were building access points. Access points let others pull your focus whenever they wish. Power psychology begins with a simple shift. Move from justification to clarification, then from clarification to conditions. Justification tries to convince, clarification names the rule. Conditions define the path without debating emotions and stories. Say less about your motives, say more about your standards. Motives invite judgment, standards invite structure. Structure calms the nervous system faster than convincing ever can. People test your frame by demanding reasons on their timeline. They use urgency, guilt, and curiosity as levers against your state. If you chase their pace, you enter their design. Entering their design means you must now perform for acceptance. Acceptance becomes rationed in small doses to keep you explaining. This is the hidden economy of dependence and control. The cure is a clean boundary sentence delivered with quiet certainty. A clean boundary sentence is short, neutral, and complete. It names a principle, then ends without leakage. For example, this choice protects focus, and I am keeping it. No apology, no defensive signals, no emotional bait. Silence follows naturally because the sentence already closed the loop. Silence is not aggression here, silence is completion. Completion ends the game that explanations always extend. Understand the biology underneath this shift. Explanations raise heart rate because you seek approval while speaking. Raised heart rates compress breath and shorten attention. Short attention creates linguistic clutter, which sounds like uncertainty. Uncertainty attracts pressure because pressure hunts wobble. Pressure increases the demand for more reasons. The loop expands until you forget your original standard completely. Now study the manipulator pattern called escalation by curiosity. It begins with friendly questions about your process. Then questions turn into micro-challenges about your clarity. You start filling gaps so you appear open and kind. The frame flips, and you begin defending basic preferences. Once defending begins, authority shifts silently toward the challenger. The antidote is minimal disclosure, tied to requirements and outcomes. Minimal disclosure respects privacy without provoking conflict. You share the necessary outcome, the criteria, and the timeline. You leave motives and history outside the conversation. History invites reinterpretation. Motives invite moral debate. Criteria anchor meaning in measurement, which resists emotional takeover. Emotional takeover fails where measurement stays visible. This is how less speech increases trust and speed. Learn the rule of 3 in power language. First, state the decision in one clear sentence. Second, state the principle that supports the decision. Third, state the condition for any reconsideration. Then stop, breathe, and allow silence to do its work. Silence gives the nervous system time to recalibrate around your frame. Recalibration feels like relief when intent is stable and kind. Explanations often come from fear of misinterpretation. But fear of misinterpretation leads to self-erasure. You start editing choices to avoid imagined reactions. This trains others that pressure will always reshape you. Once trained, they will press faster next time. Your new practice is simple: accept misinterpretation without self-defense. Allow facts and patterns to teach over time. Accepting misinterpretation does not mean coldness or distance. It means kindness without performance and clarity without pleading. When someone seeks detail that harms your boundary, you decline softly. Say, "I am not opening that layer," the decision still stands. Soft voice, steady breath, and no extra data. Over time, people adjust their approach to match your rhythm. Rhythm control is advanced influence without confrontation. Notice the trap of the good explanation. Good explanations feel smart and generous. They win praise while draining your attention budget. Attention is currency, and you must spend it deliberately. Spend attention on design, not on defense. Defense buys minutes, design buys months. Months of order beat minutes of applause. Practice the micro skill of end stops. Every paragraph of speech needs a clear stop. Stops prevent others from hooking into dangling thoughts. Dangling thoughts are open invoices that demand payment later. Influence declines each time you pay with fresh explanations. Close the thought, breathe once, and return to stillness. Stillness is not empty. Stillness is your center of gravity. Train your face to neutrality when requests escalate. Neutral eyes, soft jaw, and long exhales slow the room. Your body becomes the signal that the decision is finished. Bodies believe bodies faster than they believe words. So your physiology must speak before your sentences do. Calm physiology equals high status in human biology. Status here is not arrogance, it is reliability under heat. Upgrade your vocabulary to boundary language. Replace "I am sorry but" with "I am choosing this." Replace "I hope you understand" with "the rule is the same." Replace "I did it because" with "this protects the outcome." Each replacement removes the plea for permission. Permission seeking is the root of chronic explanation. Remove the root, and questions shrink by themselves. Use layered disclosure for complex situations. You release one measured detail only after trust is verified. Verification means consistent behavior, not warm tone or sweet words. Sweet words are cheap, consistent behavior is expensive. You reward expensive behavior with small expansions of access. Access granted is always reversible when standards drop. Reversibility protects you from sunk cost manipulation. Map the emotional triggers that reopen your mouth. Common triggers are guilt, urgency, and the need to be liked. Guilt says you owe more words to prove goodness. Urgency says there is no time for boundaries today. Liking says approval matters more than alignment. None are true when structure leads decisions. Structure protects you from story when pressure rises. Create a daily ritual to strengthen non-explanation muscles. Morning, choose one decision you will not justify today. Midday, review language and remove filler from one message. Evening, audit any moments you over-explained. Write the short version that would have kept dignity and clarity. This repetition rewires identity from pleasing to principled. Principled identity becomes very hard to steer from the outside. Hold space for discomfort after a firm sentence. Discomfort is not danger. It is the nervous system learning new rules. If you rush to soothe discomfort, you teach dependence. If you allow discomfort to pass, you teach resilience. Resilient people become better partners and better allies. The room upgrades without lectures because your presence already changed incentives. Incentives shape behavior more reliably than arguments ever will. Use the test of symmetrical standards. Your standard must apply to yourself and to others equally. When your standard costs you something, people sense fairness. Fairness lowers suspicion, and suspicion fuels most demands for reasons. Lower suspicion equals fewer interrogations about your choices. Fewer interrogations equals more time for building and creating. Creation flourishes where explanation is not a tax. There is a hidden reward for stopping explanations. You become less readable to those who exploit clarity. They cannot map your triggers, so they waste energy guessing. Wasted energy weakens their appetite to test you again. Meanwhile, aligned minds find your presence easier. They feel safe because your rules do not wobble under emotion. Safety plus stability equals natural loyalty without speeches. The transition will feel strange at first. You will worry that silence sounds harsh or distant. Remember this calibration rule forever. A short, kind sentence is warmer than a long, defensive speech. Defense serves your fear, kindness serves the mission. The mission is clean outcomes with intact relationships. Relationships grow faster where boundaries are simple and steady. When your words shorten, your observation deepens. You start hearing what was always hidden under noise. You notice incentives, contradictions, and micro-shifts in tempo. You ask fewer questions and choose better ones. You place one calm sentence at the exact pressure point. That single sentence ends loops that once lasted weeks. Weeks return to your calendar as quiet compounding time. Eventually, people stop asking you to explain. Not because they fear you, but because they understand you. They understand that your answers are consistent across seasons. Consistency ends negotiation with chaos and begins partnership with clarity. Clarity changes how they think even when you are absent. This is influence without broadcast, control without control. You taught them a new rhythm by protecting your own. Now the deeper layer arrives like a quiet question. You removed explanations, and respect increased and pressure decreased. But something still pulls at you from inside the mind. The pull is older than pleasing and stronger than guilt. What hidden need keeps asking for long answers even after boundaries hold? What quiet attachment still trades your breath for borrowed safety? Are you ready to expose the final source that keeps explanations alive? You think over-explaining is a habit, but it is actually conditioning. Your nervous system learned to trade peace for acceptance long ago. Listen carefully, because this trade is the first invisible contract you must break. Every time you over-explain, you are paying rent to someone else's comfort. You are trying to keep their perception stable at the cost of your center. And each time you do it, your nervous system learns that safety is external. When safety is external, control leaves your hands quietly. The one who owns your calm owns your rhythm, and the one who owns rhythm owns outcome. You have to understand the biology of over-explanation. It is not about logic, it is about nervous anticipation. Your body senses potential rejection and floods you with urgency to repair it. This urgency feels like morality, but it is just fear disguised as goodness. That fear teaches you to perform understanding even when truth is already clear. But performance kills authority, because authority lives in stillness, not movement. When you stop explaining, you interrupt the nervous reflex of appeasement. The silence after that interruption feels violent at first, because your system expects applause. But that silence is not danger, it is detox. Detox from approval addiction, from external validation, from constant rehearsal of self. You are training your body to survive without permission, and that feels like withdrawal. Withdrawal is not regression, it is freedom recalibrating your baseline. The second layer of this psychology is about emotional ownership. People who over-explain confuse care with control. They believe that if others misunderstand, something inside them failed. This belief is ego wrapped in kindness. It is an unconscious grab for harmony. You are trying to manage another person's perception, not because you love them, but because you fear how their emotion will shape your safety. This is control dressed as empathy, and it drains both clarity and power. True calm comes from separating empathy from ownership. You can empathize without translating yourself endlessly. You can care without trying to fix emotional distortion. Because distortion is not your responsibility, structure is. Structure means clear rules, consistent tone, predictable response. People trust structure more than apology. And the moment you give structure instead of stories, respect begins forming automatically. The third layer is the hidden contract of explanation itself. When you explain too much, you silently tell others they have authority over your decisions. You invite them to grade your logic, to decide if your truth is valid. And once invited, they will not leave that position easily. You created an unspoken hierarchy where your self-worth depends on their interpretation. This is how power drains invisibly through good intentions. You are teaching them to expect emotional access that was never theirs. Every manipulator knows this weakness instinctively. They will provoke you subtly, question your motives, or use silence as bait. Their goal is to reopen your loop of self-justification. Once you start explaining, you step back into their rhythm. And rhythm is control. Whoever defines pace defines outcome. They will never attack your logic directly. They will question your intentions softly. You must answer neither. You hold ground by giving measured clarity once, then complete stillness. This stillness forces them to face their own discomfort. And discomfort without reaction becomes transformation. The human mind cannot handle silence when expecting defense. It interprets silence as power. That power shifts the frame, because now they must adjust to your tone. And tone, not argument, decides hierarchy in every interaction. Once you hold silence comfortably, people begin moderating themselves around you. They calibrate, they soften, they measure words more carefully. The teacher changed without ever correcting anyone. Now look deeper into the emotional addiction beneath explanation. This addiction is not to people, it is to being understood. Being understood feels like safety to unhealed nervous systems. So your mind keeps chasing clarity until exhaustion feels like closure. But closure is not understanding, it is peace, and peace requires no witness. Peace arrives when you stop proving your goodness and start trusting your design. You are not here to be decoded. You are here to remain stable in your natural rhythm. But the moment you stop explaining, a void opens. That void is silence, and silence invites projection. People will fill your silence with stories that suit their fears. Some will call you distant, others will call you wise. Their projections are mirrors, not messages. You must not defend against mirrors. You let them reflect while you remain still. The one who explains mirrors becomes trapped inside them. The one who observes mirrors begins mastering perception. Psychologically, this is the beginning of emotional sovereignty. You realize that misunderstanding is not an emergency, it is filtration. It filters who is capable of seeing truth without performance. When you stop performing, low-quality attention leaves. But high-quality attention stays, because it values clarity over comfort. This is how over-explanation collapses, and real respect begins. You attract minds that do not need to be managed, and repel those who only connect through emotional access. Your silence becomes a boundary and a filter at the same time. You are no longer explaining to be accepted, you are explaining to align. Alignment requires fewer words, but deeper conviction. When you speak less, each sentence carries gravity. Your gravity is the weight of your clarity. It bends how people speak to you. And this bending is not domination, it is synchronization. People feel your stillness and unconsciously adjust their tone. They lower volume, reduce chaos, and enter your rhythm without being asked. This is how the moment you stop explaining yourself, your environment begins reorganizing itself automatically. Chaos loses access, clarity becomes magnet, and silence becomes leadership. But there is one more secret layer hidden under all of this. What if the mind still fears that silence might cost connection? What if explaining was never about control, but about loneliness disguised as logic? What happens when you remove explanation and meet the empty space that remains? Can you stay calm when connection depends entirely on your stillness? You think silence only tests patience, but it actually exposes dependency. Most people speak to confirm that they still matter. Listen carefully when words stop coming. Your real attachments reveal themselves. The need to explain is not communication, it is containment. You are trying to hold the space between fear and rejection with sentences. When the sentences vanish, that fear has nowhere left to hide. It rises, and it tells you what truly drives your behavior. Most of what you call kindness was really anxiety management. You over-explain not to inform others, but to keep your inner world predictable. Predictability feels like safety, even when it costs authenticity. This is the law of psychic noise. The louder your inner world becomes, the more you talk to regulate it. Talking buys momentary calm, but leaks psychological energy. Energy leaks through validation loops, the repeated cycle of seeking relief through agreement. Agreement gives comfort for a second, but dependence forever. The more you depend on being understood, the more power you transfer outward. True stability begins when you can remain clear while being misunderstood. Because misunderstanding is not chaos, it is resistance being filtered out. Learn the difference between expression and justification. Expression clarifies intent, justification seeks rescue. Expression strengthens boundaries, justification weakens them. You can express truth in one or two clean lines. Justification always begins with but or because. That single word turns composure into performance. Once you start performing, your tone changes from measured to pleading. Pleading communicates emotional debt, and emotional debt invites dominance. Dominance always hides inside empathy that demands explanation. You must train yourself to feel silence without panic. The body interprets long pauses as social danger. But silence is simply an empty field where authority grows roots. To own silence, you must observe tension without trying to fix it. Say less, breathe deeper, and feel your heart rate slow down. Every calm heartbeat rewires your nervous system to trust internal control. Each pause becomes an invisible message. I am stable even when unseen. People sense this stability instantly and begin adjusting to it. The one who holds silence longer usually controls the interaction's gravity. Next comes the paradox of reduced clarity. When you stop explaining, you actually become more understood. Because people stop focusing on your logic and start feeling your presence. Humans read energy faster than words. Calm energy feels like truth. Excessive words feel like defense. The brain equates defense with guilt even when logic is perfect. So over-explaining never creates understanding, it creates doubt. But when you speak once and stop, the mind fills the gaps with respect. Your silence forces others to decide your meaning, and they usually choose power. Understand the manipulation pattern of faux confusion. Manipulators pretend not to understand your boundary. They repeat questions, exaggerate complexity, or misquote you slightly. Their goal is not information, it is access. If you re-explain, you reopen emotional dialogue and lose structure. Your correction becomes an invitation to endless redefinition. You must hold the first answer like a locked door. Say my position remains the same, and restate it once if required. No tone shift, no apology, no narrative. Repetition without emotion ends psychological games faster than intellect ever will. Learn energetic economy. Every sentence costs energy. If the conversation's return on investment is low, spend less. Energy saved converts into focus, and focus compounds into presence. Presence cannot be faked, it's the silent pressure of internal order. People sense when your energy is conserved, they call it confidence. Confidence is not a trait, it is energy that leaks slowly. Leak less, and you appear stronger without changing a word. Your tone becomes your boundary before your words do. A slow tone tells the brain, this space is stable. A rushing tone tells the brain, this space is chaotic. When others hear stability, they mirror stability to keep harmony. This mirroring is biological. Calm rhythm feels safer than excitement. So the one who maintains calm becomes the emotional leader. Emotional leaders rarely explain, they define tempo. And tempo always overrules logic in social systems. You must also master strategic opacity. Opacity means partial clarity by design. You give enough truth to maintain integrity, but not enough to invite chaos. Transparency feels moral, but drains control when misused. Too much exposure turns privacy into vulnerability. Power psychology requires clean distance between openness and access. Open minds still protect data, open hearts still guard rhythm. The world respects mystery because mystery demands patience. And patience filters impulsive people faster than confrontation can. Notice how over-explanation trains distrust. When you add too many reasons, you subconsciously teach others that your choices need permission. Permission once given becomes expectation next time. The cycle continues until independence feels like rebellion. You must break this by speaking from structure, not apology. Say, this is what aligns with our direction. Then stop. No because no elaboration, no proof of worth. You remove the stage where others can rewrite your intent. The absence of explanation makes every decision feel more deliberate. Watch for the internal voice that says, "They will misunderstand me." That voice belongs to the old system, the one that equated peace with approval. You no longer negotiate peace, you embody it. Embodiment means breathing evenly through discomfort until emotion follows breath. People confuse emotional neutrality with distance. But neutrality is what lets you hold empathy without drowning in it. You are not becoming hard, you are becoming structured. Structure allows you to love without leaking energy. Now you can see the architecture of non-explanation clearly. Every sentence is a door, and each unnecessary one leaves your house open. Close the door, and the temperature inside stays constant. Your calm becomes atmosphere, not reaction. Atmosphere controls behavior more than argument ever will. This is why powerful people rarely need to defend. They maintain climate, not commentary. And climate is invisible, yet it dictates everything. But there is one more secret most never notice. When you stop explaining, people start competing to interpret you. Interpretation gives them purpose, and purpose builds loyalty. You did not ask for loyalty, but silence created it naturally. Now the question appears quietly beneath all of this. If silence can make people loyal, what happens when you direct that silence intentionally? What if silence itself could be used as persuasion? Are you ready to learn how strategic quietness bends perception without a single word? You think silence only protects peace, but it actually bends perception. Words convince, but silence rearranges hierarchy without confrontation. Listen carefully, the one who speaks least defines the meaning of every conversation. This is the final law of non-explanation, strategic quietness as persuasion. Persuasion here is not about control, it is about gravity. When you withhold words deliberately, others project meaning to fill the space. The mind hates blank pages, it writes stories where silence stands still. And when you remain calm, their stories become flattering by design. Because the brain rarely paints the quiet as weak, it paints the quiet as knowing. Your restraint becomes the mirror of their own insecurity. They start chasing your validation without realizing why. Silence works because it forces internal dialogue in others. When you pause, their mind continues the conversation with itself. And people trust thoughts they believe are their own. That is the psychology behind invisible persuasion. You are not convincing them, you are letting them convince themselves. The longer the pause, the deeper their reflection, the stronger the alignment. It feels like choice, but it is calibration. And calibration built through silence is nearly impossible to undo. There are three kinds of silence. The first is empty silence, born of fear and confusion. The second is defensive silence, used to escape accountability. The third is strategic silence, anchored in clarity and intention. Empty silence loses respect, defensive silence loses trust. But strategic silence gains both, because it rests on stability. Stability signals order, and order equals leadership in the subconscious mind. You do not demand authority, you simply embody it until it is given freely. Use silence as a time amplifier. Every pause stretches perception of wisdom. A 2-second delay feels like measurement. A 5-second delay feels like foresight. Delay tells the body, this person is not moved by reaction. The human brain ranks calm response as higher intelligence. So the one who waits before speaking owns tempo. Tempo ownership silently crowns leadership without introduction or claim. There is also the silence of closure. When you finish a sentence cleanly and stop, you teach that the subject no longer needs negotiation. People test confidence by seeing if you will reopen completed thoughts. You will not. You will hold still until the room accepts that finality. The first to break the silence loses dominance, because breaking silence reveals discomfort with completion. Your comfort with stillness becomes the proof of inner control. Silence can also correct without confrontation. When someone tries to provoke you, A slow breath and still face show they failed to enter your field. They will adjust tone automatically, because aggression cannot survive without emotional oxygen. You removed that oxygen the moment you stopped reacting. Your stillness becomes feedback louder than defense. Correction without humiliation creates influence that lasts years. But silence is not withdrawal, it is strategy. Strategic quietness pairs with observation, not avoidance. You listen to tone, pacing, and motive more than words. While others focus on speech, you read rhythm. Rhythm never lies because the body cannot fake consistency. You respond to rhythm shifts, not sentences. This skill lets you move conversations from emotion to structure effortlessly. Structure is where outcomes live. Noise is where power dies. To maintain persuasive silence, your internal state must stay steady. If silence hides tension, it leaks through micro-expressions. Silence only holds gravity when body and mind agree. Agreement requires trust in your own perception. You trust perception by practicing neutrality under social heat. When someone demands instant reaction, say nothing. Wait until your breathing slows and emotion fades. Then speak once, short, slow, complete. The contrast between their urgency and your calm reshapes hierarchy instantly. Understand the mirroring effect of deliberate restraint. The one who stays still forces others to reveal their true impulse. Silence removes masks faster than confrontation ever will. People project intentions, frustrations, and insecurities into your quiet. You learn more by not answering than by interrogating. This is how masters collect information in rooms filled with talkers. Talkers trade secrets for attention. Observers collect leverage for free. Leverage stored silently becomes influence stored safely. Eventually, the room starts adjusting before you even speak. Your presence rewrites rhythm through expectation. Expectation becomes self-regulation. People moderate themselves for harmony. You are no longer participating. You are orchestrating without movement. This is invisible authority, where your energy governs behavior without rules or reminders. You have become the standard others measure themselves against. And the standard never explains itself, it simply exists. This is why the moment you stop explaining, everything changes. You shift from performance to gravity, from chasing to drawing. People no longer see you as available for argument. They see you as the mirror that decides their own composure. You are not louder, not smarter, just stiller, and stillness wins quietly. The world starts speaking softer in your presence. Not out of fear, but because your calm makes noise feel unnecessary. Now you see the full circle of psychological control. Words build worlds, but silence governs them. You do not win through speech, you win through atmosphere. Your silence ends debates, filters chaos, rewires loyalty, and reclaims time. Every explanation you refuse strengthens your emotional walls. Every pause you hold multiplies your unseen gravity. Every quiet decision teaches more than 1,000 arguments ever could. This is the hidden architecture of invisible power. First you stop reacting, then you stop explaining. And finally, you stop needing recognition for restraint. Because once silence becomes your natural language, your presence itself becomes instruction. People will not remember your speeches, they will remember your stillness. And that stillness will echo in their behavior long after you have left the room. So remember the truth hidden behind every calm breath. The moment you stop explaining yourself, the world does not misunderstand you. It simply starts adjusting around you.